launched its largest ever aerial assault on Ukraine over the weekend. It comes as President Trump says that European leaders will visit the U.S. this week to discuss the Russia-Ukraine war. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio is in Washington with the details.
I want to start with you because it's your colleagues in the New York Times that reported this idea that a high-ranking general inside the Russian military leadership, very friendly with Prigozhin.
Russia is experiencing an odd phenomenon. Traffic in the center of Moscow no longer flows purposefully. Interminable car lines wind through the streets, waiting and not hurrying anywhere, caught in a quiet that is more oppressive than any protest. Inside the cars, drivers' dissatisfaction turns to despair as they hold on to the dwindling hope that there will still be fuel available when it is their time. Most depart with nothing. This isn't the aftermath of an earthquake or a bomb. It is a situation that has gone unnoticed. One strong enough to immobilize a country without there was only one shot fired. Oil gave Russia its wealth and prestige, but now it is struggling. There are no gas stations. The factories are freezing. Before they can be collected, crops are withering. Additionally, employees are being sent home without explanation. Even the long untouchable oligarchs are seeing their fortunes diminish. Is this the point at which Russia's power starts to fall apart? And what will happen to the Kremlin and the millions of people it affects if the oil-based empire collapses? There are now other fronts in the conflict in Ukraine besides the battlefield. It has pierced Russia's own heart and attacked the core of its authority. Oil and gas were Moscow's main sources of power for many years. The lifeblood that sustained its elites, supplied its army, and kept its economy afloat. Now that lifeline is falling apart. Tall refineries that were once celebrated as feats of Soviet and post-Soviet engineering now stand broken and scarred throughout Russia. Previously linked to unrelenting production and energy wealth, Ryazan, Samara, Volgograd, and Leningrad have evolved into signs of vulnerability. These installations have been reduced to blackened skeletons by Ukrainian drones operating under exact intelligence guidance. Over a fifth of Russia's refining capacity has been destroyed in a matter of weeks. The magnitude of this catastrophe cannot be concealed by any government statement or media broadcast. Russia's arteries are bleeding, and fuel is the lifeblood of contemporary states. The repercussions are obvious on the streets. There are sometimes miles of cars lining up in endless columns. As the gasoline runs out before their time, hours pass, tempers flare, and people become desperate. Turn comes. Families bring containers of different sizes and shapes to carry even a small amount of gasoline, such as improvised cans or water bottles. All too frequently, they leave empty-handed. Fistfights break out from arguments. To restore order, police are called. Additionally, entire shipments have disappeared in a matter of minutes, leading to mobs storming petrol stations in some areas. These scenes evoke unpleasant recollections for elder generations. The Soviet collapse's ration coupons are not a far-off past. Now they are a spooky echo. For younger Russians brought up under despite Vladimir Putin's promises of limitless prosperity, the shock feels deceitful. They were taught their nation was untouchable, blessed with resources the world could never take away. Yet as people idle in automobiles without fuel or walk home holding empty jugs, the illusion dissolves. Industry is even more negatively impacted. Silence descends on steel mills. Furnaces cooled out of necessity rather than choice. Production is halted in chemical plants. Depots are home to trucks that once transported cargo thousands of miles away, their tires going down in the mud. In communities centered on a single factory, employees risk forced leave or layoffs, unpaid wages, and uncertain futures. Tractors and harvesters sit idle as farmers throughout the countryside watch wheat fields ripen and deteriorate. Once one of Russia's most potent commodities, grain is now trapped in the ground and cannot be accessed without fuel. Food costs are rising every day in markets in St. Petersburg and Moscow, and bread, the most basic commodity, is rumored to be about to double. By stopping the export of fuel, the Kremlin has attempted to control the catastrophe. Officials hope to reroute fuel toward home markets. However, such an action cuts into sources of income that were already declining as a result of sanctions. The Russian state has historically relied on oil sales to fund everything from government pensions to the high expenses of war. The treasury loses money every day when exports are cut. The pressure is starting to affect the rich elites who once supported Putin. Their fortunes were founded on oil profits, and the pillars of their dominance are shaking. Shipping crude has become a maze of costs, with insurance prices soaring. freight rates increasing and shadow fleets burning money to skirt sanctions. The squeeze is affecting businesses including Novatek, Lucille, and Rosneft. Formerly known for their boundless fortune, Igor Sechin, Gennady Timchenko, and Leonid Mikhelson now see their incomes decline and their power wane. Under the continual danger of attack, even Gazprom Neft, long the proud gem of Russia's energy sector, finds it difficult to maintain the operations of its remaining refineries. Wealth is only one aspect of this change. Loyalty to the Kremlin has historically been associated with wealth, prestige, and stability in Moscow. Conversations that used to seem inconceivable now quietly make their way into the halls of power as those pillars tremble. The murmurs of potential compromises, talks, and other options become more audible. A system that was long believed to be impenetrable began to crack. However, while elites quantify losses, common Russians deal with a more pressing issue. From the frigid regions of Siberia to the far eastern coastlines and the steppes of central Russia, there is a lack of fuel. With cars waiting through the night in the hopes that supply trucks may arrive before daylight, petrol stations are overcrowded in every location. People's patience is running out. In queues, shouts resound. Arguments get heated. Additionally, conflicts in multiple cities finish with bloodied faces and broken glass. This disintegration of everyday life is not unique to Russia. Diesel and oil are not merely regional products. They are the wheels of international commerce. They are essential for agricultural machinery, vehicles, trains, and ships. As a result of Russia's refining being crippled, the effect becomes widespread. Lack of diesel drives up transportation expenses. Throughout Europe, South American markets are impacted by the surge in fuel costs in Asia. Food prices in Istanbul or freight expenses in São Paulo could rise as a result of a drone strike in Ryazan. Supply lines around the world are interconnected, and every explosion in Russia trembles them all. In response, the Kremlin offers short-term solutions, export restrictions, new levies, and insurance and transportation subsidies, but none of these address the core issue. The fragility of Russia's system is shown by every strike. Its energy sector is vulnerable as a result of years of reliance on foreign machinery, technology, and international trading routes. There are few spare components available. Repairs take months to complete. Additionally, before recuperation can even start, every repaired site is hit once more. The transformation of Ukraine lies at the heart of this dilemma. It now runs a burgeoning domestic sector after once being mostly dependent on imported drones. Every day, hundreds of FPV drones are produced by state military companies and small businesses utilizing improvised electronics, reverse engineering, and 3D printing. Russia's pricey air defenses are overpowered by these swarms of low-cost weaponry, discovering spaces that are too big to fill. The size of Russian territory is too great for the much-lauded S-400 systems to cover. Every gap in coverage is an invitation, and Ukraine is precisely responding. Previously unreachable targets are now at risk. Belgorod fuel stores, Engels air bases, they have hit refineries located hundreds of miles within Russia's borders. Ukraine is fed by NATO satellites, reconnaissance planes, and intelligence networks. The information had to be accurate. Moscow once took pride in its invulnerability, protected by both military power and geographic location. But with each burning refinery and rising column of smoke, those illusions fall apart. The psychological toll on Russians is increasing every week. The assurance of safety and the belief that the motherland would not be affected by conflict have been shattered. The battle is no longer far away, as evidenced by the long lineups at gas stations, the growing costs in stores, and the nightly pictures of explosions. It exists in their homes, on the streets, and in their day-to-day struggles to lead normal lives. Every shortage erodes confidence in the leadership. Every disturbance reveals more about the system's vulnerability. The ramifications for Russia's military apparatus are considerably more dire. Fuel is just as important to armies as ammunition. Tanks are unable to move without diesel. Aircraft stay grounded in the absence of jet fuel. Transport vehicles idle in the absence of gasoline, depriving frontline troops of supplies. The breakdown of refining power undermines Russia's capacity to fight wars. Observing. There seem to be three possible routes ahead. The first is continuation. Ukraine keeps up its striking pace. When Russia fails to rebuild, shortages persist. Rationing would cause the economy to deteriorate, and the war effort would deteriorate further. Costly resilience is the second. Russia drains resources from every other area of society by allocating vast sums of money on defenses, repairs, and alternate supply routes. Taxes increase, social services decrease, unrest increases, and public loyalty continues to decline. However, the third de-escalation is delicate, negotiation of some kind that breaks the loop. However, political will is needed for that to occur, and Putin has shown no signs of adopting it. Russia is currently stuck in a cycle of repetition, repair, attack, destruction, and repair. Every cycle exacerbates the rifts in its society and economy. Every refinery fire erodes the prestige of authority that has been meticulously cultivated over the past 20 years. Every gas station line serves as a reminder to the public that their everyday lives are falling apart. Additionally, this crisis threatens the existence of a whole system based on riches, oil, and the conviction that its power could not be contested. The drivers were stuck in long lineups. The farmers are observing the decomposition of crops in their fields. Additionally, the forced factory workers are now living evidence of the empire's disintegration. The idea of invincibility eludes us when refineries burn and food costs rise. How long can the Kremlin stop the upheaval and shortages? Will Russia's power system be able to withstand a conflict that has penetrated its very foundations? What would happen to the world outside its boundaries if the energy powerhouse collapsed? This narrative is far from over, so stay tuned. Please leave a comment with your ideas, and remember to subscribe for more. Thank you for listening.